The Axe Murder House in Iowa is a well-known tourist attraction for ghost hunters and horror lovers alike. The site of a gruesome unsolved 1912 murder in which 6 children and 2 adults had their skulls completely crushed by the axe of an unknown perpetrator. The axe was purchased in 1994 and restored to its 1912 condition and converted into a tourist destination. It costs $428 a night to stay at the old haunted home, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls, or the faint screams of children. But in November of 2014, the haunting took a darker turn. Robert Stephen Lauren Jr., 37 of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was on a regular recreational paranormal visit with friends when true horror struck. His companions found him stabbed in the chest, an apparently self-inflicted wound. They called 911 and Lawrenson was brought to a nearby hospital before being helicoptered to a university medical center in Omaha. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Lawrenson suffered the self-inflicted injury at about 12:45 a.m., which is around the same time the 1912 axe murderers in the house began. Lawrenson recovered from his injuries, but has never spoken publicly about what occurred that day. From Arthur Lynn, the owner of the home, the incident was very upsetting. End quote. It's publicity, but it's not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have. I don't want people thinking that when they come to the axe murder house, something's going to happen that's going to make them do something like that. End of quote. The house remains open for tourist visits and overnight stays today. When the Brazilis family decided to insulate their home in Auburn, Pennsylvania in 2015, they discovered that it had already been with scores of dead animal carcasses. The dead animals were trapped in newspapers from the 1930s and 40s and were among half-used spices and other items. After removing the items, they sent hundreds of artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. The expert attributed the rotting animals and their walls to powwow, or Dutch magic, a ritual originating in the culture of Pennsylvania Dutch to treat ailments and gain physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers to Pennsylvania in the 16 and 1700s and are often of Amish faith. Many of the spells deal with the care of livestock, finding water, or the treatment of minor ailments, or reflecting the conditions and concerns of early American settlers. But powwow also has within it a tradition of darker spells, and even of such things as conjuring demons. One notable ritual in their tradition is this hex to create loyalty in a dog, to attach a dog to a person, provided nothing else was used before it to affect it. Try to draw some of your own blood and let the dog eat it along with his food, and he will stay with you. The mold found on the rotting carcasses in the Baretzes family has caused illness among the family members, and they say that the odor hasn't gone away. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were ready to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written. It appeared to be murder self-deletion, but there was no deletion note, no prior indication that they would do this. No explanation. Police could not figure out why the parents would delete themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year, no one exactly knew what happened to the family, or what would drive the parents to do something so unthinkable. In January, police released more chilling details on the case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with a convicted killer. Friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse, but more assumed they just wanted to move somewhere off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Christy Storak to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan, who was convicted in the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother Ron, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became a book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Police say Christy Streck became friends with Dan, and she and her husband even visited him in prison. In 2007, ABC News documented a series of cell phone calls to families with terrifyingly specific death threats. The unidentified callers knew exactly what families were doing and knew what they were watching. The families say the call comes in at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemail arrives, playing recordings of their private conversations, including with a local police detective. The caller knows the family said what they are wearing and what they are doing, and after months of investigating, police seem powerless to stop them. This went on with the Coronel family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. When the Furcrest Watch police tried to find the culprit, the calls were tracked back to the Coronel's own phone, even when they were turned off. And it got worse. The Coronel and 2 other Furcast families told ABC News that they believe the callers are using their cell phones to spy on them. They said that hackers know their every move, where they are, what they're doing, and what they are wearing. The callers have recorded private conversations, the families and police said, including a meeting with a local detective. After moving into their $1.3 million dream home, a New Jersey family started receiving creepy death threats from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher. Since moving in, the owners said they have received numerous letters from the mysterious person. The Watcher claimed the home has been the subject of my family for decades, and I have been put through in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The new openers have several children, and other letters ask, have they found out what's in the walls yet? And I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. The family was forced to flee from their home and later filed a lawsuit against the previous owners.